Good morning, students. So today we will be starting with the process of partition. Now, as far as the process of partition is concerned, this started with the principle of religious minorities. The process started with the first thing, that is the principle of religious majority. Why? Because India was partitioned on the basis of two-nation theory. Now, what was two-nation theory? Two-nation theory was the concept that was given at that point of time with a thing that there will be two different nations on the basis of religion. Two-nation theory is the basis of the creation of Pakistan and India, but especially Pakistan. It stated that Muslims and Hindus are two separate nations by definition. Muslims have their own custom, own religion, tradition, and from social and moral point of view also, Muslims are different from Hindus, and therefore they should be able to have their own separate homeland in which Islam should be a dominant religion. Hence, two-nation theory was the founding principle of the Pakistan movement. And that is how Pakistan was created. Okay, now after this, it was decided that the areas where Muslims were in majority would make up the territory of Pakistan and the rest was supposed to stay with India. But there were certain difficulties that were faced during partition. Now, what were those? There was no single belt of Muslim majority areas in British India. It was divided into two parts, west side and the eastern side. Now, it was not possible and it cannot be possible that all the Muslims of India were residing at one part. They were scattered, some were in western side, some were in eastern side. So it was decided that even Pakistan would consist of West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And that is how the division took place. But another problem here was not all Muslim majority area, they wanted to be in Pakistan. Here Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, if you know about this man, he has been the undisputed leader of the Northwest Frontier Province. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan opposed the two-nation theory. Okay, he was not in favor of the creation of Pakistan. He very much wanted to be a part of India. He was political and spiritual leader who was known for his non-violent opposition, a lifelong pacifist. You understand what is a pacifist? Pacifist is a person who opposes war, who opposes violence. So he has been a long-term pacifist and a devout Muslim as well. A very close friend of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, and therefore, because of his similar efforts with Mahatma Gandhi, his similar approaches of non-violence, he is known as the Frontier Gandhi of Northwest Frontier Province. So, since he was known as Frontier Gandhi, he simply voiced his opinion against the two-nation theory, but his voice was ignored. And finally, Northwest Frontier Province was made to merge with Pakistan. Next problem. Two of the Muslim majority provinces of British India, that is Punjab and Bengal. Now, these two areas had good concentration of non-Muslims in majority. So what to do about this? It was decided that let's divide Punjab and Bengal according to the religious majorities at the district level also and at the lower level also. But the decision could not be made by the midnight of 14th August and the beginning of 15th August. It wasn't. So just imagine if tomorrow is say 29th of April then by today night, you do not know whether you will be a part of India or whether you will be a part of Pakistan. Which means that by 14th August midnight, and next, that is 15th August, striking 12, people did not know whether they are going to be a part of India or whether they are going to be a part of Pakistan. Another trauma of this partition. Which brings me to the basic problem that finally took place, was a problem of minorities, which is even today. This existed on both sides of the border. Lakhs of Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs lakhs of Hindus and Sikh were in the areas that were now in Pakistan, and an equally large number of Muslims on the Indian side of Punjab and Bengal. They found themselves clueless, they found themselves trapped. Where their ancestors have lived for centuries, they are fighting for their existence, was the case. Initially, people and the leaders thought that violence would end. It would be temporary. But the opposite happened. Violence went out of control. So such was the matter at that time. This brings me to the consequences of the partition. By looking at the process of partition, I hope it is very much clear what could have been the consequences of partition. A sudden transfer of the population that has ever happened in the human history. A tragic transfer of the population. Killing and atrocities at both sides of the border. And why? Due to religion. Religion became a weapon. Religion is still a weapon. I believe it works like a nuclear weapon in the society, in the social being. And religion, in the name of religion, people were killing each other. Places like Lahore, Amritsar, Kolkata became divided into communal zones. Muslims would avoid going into the area where Hindu resided, and Hindus will avoid going into the areas where Muslim resided. There was fear in the minds of the people, and this was not the condition earlier, students. 1920, the non-cooperation movement has seen the unity of the Hindus and Muslims against British India. So that this was not the case that existed earlier. People were forced to abandon their homes and move across the borders. They took temporary shelter in the refugee camps. The local administration were unhelpful. And if you talk about women, they were abducted on both sides. Another easy targets of attack after the minorities. They were seen amongst the minorities. Women were abducted, attacked, killed, raped. They were made to convert to the religion of the abductor, and they were forced to marriage. In many of the cases, women were killed by their own family member in order to preserve the family honor. Children were separated from their parents. And lakhs of refugees, they understood freedom as not independence, but life in refugee camps. That is what was independence for them. The writers, the poets, they have expressed the sufferings, the killings that was brought with the partition, and they have described this as the division of hearts. Because it was not just division of one asset. Division of financial assets took place from paper to pen. The liabilities, it was a political division of the country. The administrative apparatus, instruments, you won't even believe, musical instruments were also divided. And finally, you see 80 lakh people migrating from one place to another, from India to Pakistan, from Pakistan to India, and people simply left. Out of them, 5 to 10 lakh people were killed. What kind of freedom was this? What kind of independence we have earned? Where we have lost our own people. Why? Because we wanted a particular religion, be it Hindu, be it Muslim, to get secured. That was the kind of independence we were looking for. And this brings another question and a deeper issue with partition, and that was, is India a secular nation? Is India a Hindu nation? Because Pakistan, on the basis of two-nation theory, was a Muslim majority area. So can we term India as a Hindu majority country? After migration, the Muslim population in India accounted for 12% of the total population. So how would the government of India treat its Muslim citizens and the other religious minorities, which included Sikh, Christians, Jains, Buddhists, Parsis, and the Jews? There were competing political interests behind these conflicts. The Muslim League was formed to protect the interests of the Muslims. It demanded a separate Muslim nation. So there were organizations who were trying to organize even the Hindus. But there comes a change. The leaders of the national movement believed that India must treat all its people equally. India should not be a country that gives prominence to one faith. With all such ideals, India became a country where being religious would not be the test of citizenship. Students, here, test of citizenship will be here. And that is how, since then till today, India cherishes the ideal of secular nation. Your nation cherishes the ideal of secular nation, treating each and every faith equally. Okay? Now, that is how India established itself as a secular nation. But since there were diversities, there were many places, there were many countries, there were many states who created a problem in uniting India. That is, who created a problem for being a part of Indian Union. British India was divided in two parts. You have British Indian provinces that was ruled by the British government. Second was princely states that were ruled by the princes who were under British supremacy. Okay, so British Indian provinces are part of Indian Union, but princely states, they were ruled by the princes. Now British gave them the independence either to be a part of India or to be not a part of India, or to be a part of Pakistan. So integrating the princely states was a problem, because they did not want it to be a part of India. Alright, now this brings me to another topic, that was integration of princely states. So British India, since you know how it was divided, the British Indian provinces were directly under the control of British government, and several large and small states ruled by the princes, known as princely states, enjoyed a form of control over their internal affairs because they accepted British supremacy. And that supremacy that I have mentioned here, under British supremacy, this was known as paramountcy or suzerainty of the British Crown. Princely states covered 1/3 of the land area of the British Indian Empire. Now, what was the problem? Just before independence, it was announced by the British that with the end of their rule over India, paramountcy of British crown over the princely states would also lapse. But princely states, as I've explained to you just in the previous slide, or the rulers were free to join either Pakistan, either India, or remain independent. Okay? Now here, the ruler of Travancore, he announced that the state has decided on independence. Choosing on independence meant that neither a part of India nor a part of Pakistan but to remain independent. Now, same announcements were done in Hyderabad and Bhopal. Why? Because these rulers were non-democratic and they did not want to give the democratic rights to the population of their particular states. Now, the government opposed the division of India into small principalities. The Indian government did not want to divide India into further small principalities because of these princely states. And here you have the smartest politician of that time, that is Sardar Patel. Now Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel here played a prominent role in negotiating diplomatically with the rulers of princely states. He used the opportunities created by them, by the Indian government and the princely states to negotiate and to align these states with the Indian Union. Now how? Now the government's approach, it was guided by three things. Princely states want to become a part of Indian Union. Government was flexible in giving that autonomy and integration of the territorial boundaries that assumed importance. Okay? Now I will explain all these three in the next class. So I'll stop here for the day. If you face any problem, do let me know. Okay? Thank you, students.